Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to this gathering. It is also to pay tribute to Dr. Naran and Dr. Ravi Gupta to come over to India. And Akhtar, India is even a challenge in August, but also an opportunity. And opportunities are what we are going to talk about, but also challenges. You might have heard a certain nuance before in the during the presentations, speakers referring to e-governance and e-government. And in the Broadband Commission, we had quite a discussion about that. So we came to the conclusion what governments should do in providing services is called e-government, but the way they do it and how they govern those procedures are governance. So I am mainly speaking about e-government. So in times where you have amazing tools for data collection, processing, storage, and communication with computers and internet, is there an alternative to not use it for government and servicing the public? No, there is definitely not. The question is, however, where, when, how, by whom, and at what cost? And let us not forget, it is about a smoother functioning of administration, rendering public services more rapid and effective, and thereby reducing costs. The opportunities are immense compared with the tasks at all levels of governments in any country. But the demand and the capacities will depend on political will and leadership, on financial resources and implementing capacities, as well as computer literacy of government officials at all levels. And let's not forget also for the citizens using the services. The quicker the technological tools, hard and software, are further developed, the quicker it becomes obvious that choices are necessary and the risks of missing the train more evident. There are seldomly opportunities without risks, but there is an opportunity to introduce a culture of IT risk governance, dealing with what you do and whether you do the right thing well or whether you don't. Also, the risks of wait and see have to be looked at, and those might get more harmful than having to change certain applications from time to time. The mere availability of sharing knowledge and experience on global level is an advantage, and requests to foster partnership with and within a global network on e-government, hopefully, and to be further developed soon. To learn from each other in order to avoid risks and unnecessary costs can become imperative. It is therefore exemplary that the organizers of this global e-government forum are doing in rendering that needed cooperation easier. I heard recently in Africa at the UN conference in Dar es Salaam that 80% of the countries of that continent do have an e-government policy, but implementation seems to be slow, if not very slow. When you ask in Europe for an e-government policy, you get rather mixed answers. If not the question back, what does it mean? All governments there apply e-solutions. Most have a particular office in charge of policy questions, regarding standards, procurements, requirements and curricula for hard and software training and user services. Their endeavor seems less policy but application driven in a pretty decentralized manner. The challenges in public administration are linked to reorganize work procedures, workflows, change procedural and or administrative laws, overcoming generational gaps in computer literacy, and easing the readiness for change, reducing the fear of becoming more easily controllable and subject of political intervention or media-related investigations. The challenges for adequate technical solutions might be considerable, but the challenge for leadership is of paramount importance. If there is no clear political will and continuous leadership from and through the top responsibles in a government, the administration often gets stuck in internal struggle, leading to stalemates and political staging. A sound policy of incentives is recommendable to overcome barriers. Those offices making good progress should be rewarded and not subject of budgetary reduction because of being more effective than others. The gains in effectiveness should be made available for doing even better. Parliaments and citizens should be kept well informed about intentions and what the short-term and longer-term benefits for them will be. The citizens should be able to experience the benefits of e-government, and that is why the higher end of services to be rendered should often be the point to start in tackling those applications and to make them user-friendly. It is obvious that the telecom infrastructure must be there and adequate bandwidth available and accessible at reasonable cost. The availability of broadband is key, not only for urban centers, but also for rural areas. If in a reasonable time broadband is not brought to the last mile of users, many government intentions in rendering public services might be partly or greatly a failure, simply because if there is no adequate bandwidth, the rendering of the services are too slow, and it makes obviously a huge difference whether you have a few seconds to make downloads or whether you have a couple of minutes to wait for doing so. In the Broadband Commission, we have seen that there is a considerable struggle behind the scenes between the broadcasters who have the bandwidth and the telecom service providers who want to have more bandwidth, because we all know that the future belongs to video streamed communication, and we should bear in mind that e-government has also a considerably or even an exponentially growing component of m-government. That means mobile phone-based applications. Let us be clear that the computer access is slowly growing, whereas the mobile phone availabilities is steeply increasing. Again, Africa, the mobile phone coverage is about 68% through the continent, whereas the computer availability is at about 10%. So broadband is the key, and how it is being brought is not just an issue left to telecom industry. It has to be governed, and it is a component, a very key component of e-governance. An additional challenge might come from and through the social medias. Increasing numbers of citizens will use that space and will challenge governments and the administration. When governments speak as one to many, they will have to get accustomed that the echo is from many and even more to one, and that through the social medias, voices will be amplified and government decisions will be influenced, if not sometimes even derailed. Putting opportunities and challenges on a weight balance, I still think that the opportunities over short or long will prevail over the challenges. Time and citizens' access to ITs will simply turn those heavy challenges into opportunities over time. There is no fit-for-all solution. There are enormous scopes for cooperation, and that one is growing the more ownership a nation-state and its administration is investing in. There is no third partner who can do e-government for somebody else. There is, however, knowledge and support that can be provided without borders. It does not bring us far to engage in a beauty contest who is how good in e-government, but it is worth to look into progress made by others and learn from those success stories as well as from failures. India is in a particular position to respond with the highest developed software, including industry, leaving the capacity to provide solutions far beyond its border. The world is in need of that, and competition is and remains an excellent engine to do better for less. It is at the end about servicing the public, and we all are citizens and are part of that. Thank you and have a good meeting.